Welcome, everyone, to episode 58 of the Circle Back Podcast, the show where three great friends get together and just talk about video games. I'm Dan LaMarca. As always, I'm joined by Dan Dufresnoy.
Hey, everybody.
And Shelby White.
Shelby.
Hi, guys. Hi, guys. Does that sound like Shelby? Shelby is unfortunately not able to be here today.
Shelby, I feel like you're right next to me, though.
Yeah.
We feel your presence.
We feel you in spirit.
I feel you, Shelby.
So we're kicking it old school. Just Dan and Dan rapping about video games.
Rapping. All right. Can't seem to
All
listen
right,
to the
let's hear
facts. And I'm nervous and I can't relax. And
Well, that was nice.
Mario Brothers and doesn't our jam. Got a big portal working on the drain. You know that song from the old...
Yes. You're nailing it, Dan. Keep it up.
Faster than the others, you be hooked on the brothers.
How could they say faster than the others?
I don't know.
You can. They're Sonic's main competitor.
I might not have the lyrics right. I saw that show when I was a kid. I loved it. Captain Lou Albano was my hero.
He is something.
And yeah,
You're sure hero. Calling Lou Albano a hero is really good.
He was in the Cyndi Lauper Girls Just Want to Have Fun music video. Damn it.
If that's not grounds for heroism, I don't know what is.
That's an anthem. There's actually a cover. I had no idea, but this isn't a music podcast.
Wait, are you telling me that Girls Just Want to Have Fun is a cover?
It's a cover, Robert Hazard song. It was like a new wave punk song, like 79, 80.
What?
And Cyndi Lauper, yeah, she made it. She took it. Yeah, she made it her own. I swear to God.
How does nobody know that?
Because hers became a #1 hit. Robert Hazard was like a underground punk new wave sort of guy, and it's really interesting. We have to listen to it.
That is really interesting. Yeah. And you'll be hearing audio of that right now. Click. All right, let's get into the games here. Since it's just me and Dan, we don't have a ton of games to talk about, but we have some. I'm going to start out by saying Mortal Kombat 11. Okay. I finished the story mode. It ends really, really well. The final hour is just totally bonkers, like fucking awesome. I really, really like that game a lot.
Best fatalities of any of the games.
Well, yeah, but that's not why I personally am there. But it helps. It's fun to see the ridiculous, because it really, the best way to describe it is like, it is like schlocky horror movies in its levels of like, oh my God, that's disgusting, but you're laughing. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, look at this, how stupid. But
like
it's
ripping out the spine through the mouth, and you're just like, oh. Okay.
Yeah, it's so good. It is really, really good. But the game, like I said, I've said it before. I talked about the game on the last podcast, but I think it's just a really great fighting game. And then, like I said, the way NetherRealm does their story modes, I just love them.
You said they have some really cool, adventure things that you can...
aside, the crypt is awesome, which is probably what you're talking about, and it's great. It's like, nice little throwbacks and nods to fans of the series, right? But I'm talking about the story mode, the single-player story mode. They do it better than anyone, for sure. It's like, this is old news, because they've been doing it since Mortal Kombat 9, and they do it in the Injustice games. It's like, you play through a single-player campaign, where each chapter, it puts you in control of a different character and shows their little story in what's going on. And then it seamlessly transitions from a cinematic camera, and it pulls out, and they're facing each other, the two characters, and then you fight. And it's just, and then same thing on the back end. You beat them and it zooms in on someone, and
cool.
It's just really well done. And like I said, this isn't fucking new news, but the story they told in this game, I think, was a really, really good way to wrap up that trilogy.
That's awesome,
of 9, 10, and 11. I think 10 is kind of the odd man out, because it focuses a lot on the quote-unquote combat kids, which was there were a couple of the characters. It was like a big time jump from 9 to 10.
Okay.
And some of the characters, children, like Cassie Cage, Jackie Briggs, in the last game, I forget their names. I know Jin was one of them. But basically, a couple characters had kids, and now their kids were playable characters, right?
Oh, okay.
So now the two male combat kids are just not in the story at all. But Cassie and Jackie still play big roles. But it's more of the story is more about the older characters, I think Jax has a really, really good story in this. Johnny Cage coming to grips with what a douchebag he was as young Johnny Cage, because he literally comes face to face with his younger self.
That's really cool.
And like, not everyone can relate, but most people can relate when you're like, oh my God, myself 10 years ago, Jesus, like terrible. So imagine Johnny Cage, who is like an insufferable idiot.
Just the worst.
So like as he got older, had a kid, got married, like he kind of grew, right? Yeah. So now he's looking back and he's like, what the fuck? And then you see young Johnny Cage being his douchey self, and it's just so good to see like him like come up with ideas like, man, we could make so much money, like Johnny and Johnny in the movies together. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so stupid, but it's so good.
That's awesome.
And then they do really fun time travel stuff that, of course, doesn't make much sense, but it's a lot of fun. So again, like I said last time, highly recommend this game. They get tied together really well. Some really weird stuff at the end of this game, but it's awesome.
Cool, man.
So that's Mortal Kombat 11. Dan, I know we talk about Sekiro a lot on this podcast, but I know you are knocking on the door, quite literally.
The last boss.
He's fighting the last boss as we speak. And I've mentioned on here before that I think
very hard.
The last boss of Sekiro is the hardest From Software boss I've ever fought. And that's saying something. And now Dan is getting so close.
So the issue is that I'm just getting, and that's, I think, from any From Software game, when you get impatient, that's when you mess up. That's where you get punished. I know I can beat him. I know the strategy. I have my technique. I know how to dodge that. I know how to, I can do it. It's just, it's a very, very long battle, and it's grueling, and
Well, yeah, like most final bosses in these games, maybe I wouldn't even say most, but I think of Bloodborne and that final boss, it's a long fight.
Yeah.
So there's not much room for error.
Exactly.
That's what this reminds me of. Because it's like you can't really slip up or you're screwed.
If you get hit once, your health bars, it depends on how many prayer beads you have, obviously, but your health goes to like, a quarter of the way.
I'm going to ask you something in very vague terms because I don't want to spoil anything, especially for Shelby.
Let's be vague.
There is another quote-unquote final boss that you could have already seen. Have you seen it yet? It's fiery, is what I'll say.
No, I know what you're talking about.
Haven't seen it?
No.
Okay. You're skipping that?
Well, I don't know how to... so really what I'm going to play this game again, but what I said to myself was, and I did the same thing with Bloodborne, I'm going to play this game... I'm going to try to explore everything that I can, but I'm going to try to do it with as little references or as little, I don't, no walkthroughs.
That was me too,
or anything like that. But to be fair, I did look at like a tip for this last boss, and the article that it said like
it showed the other.
Oh, how do you how to beat this boss? And I was like, oh, what's that? And I looked into it, and I was just like, man, So I don't know. It depends. I'm on this jag. I really want to beat. This.
Oh yeah. The thing I'll say is don't fall victim to what happened with you in Bloodborne. Keep this save after you beat the boss, and if you want to play it again, do a new save. Because in Bloodborne, didn't you have to redo? Didn't you have to replay?
Well, so Bloodborne, because I
started New Game Plus. That's what happened, right?
I started New Game Plus because I got the DLC. But
if you start New Game Plus, then you have to work your way back to a certain point.
Yes.
That's a nightmare. So what I'm doing is I'm leaving my save, and this game is one of the first ones to actually have multiple slots on the game screen.
Oh, yeah.
It has multiple save games.
Well, Bloodborne you could have different.
You could?
Yeah, Bloodborne you could do
I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
Because some of them are like, maybe I'm misremembering. Maybe they all have save slots. But I remember I did the same thing, but on this one, I'm like, I'm not starting New Game Plus. I'm leaving that save, and if I want to play it again, I'm starting a new game. That's what I'm doing.
I like that.
Don't do a New Game Plus because you're going to have to get all the way.
So much, yeah. No, but I think that's my plan, and that's what I was trying to do. The way that like Shelby is doing his, like I wanted to really experience it without any. So I'm sure I've missed a bunch of things,
right?
But that makes me want to go back. And I said I did that with Bloodborne when I played New Game Plus, because From Software, I don't know what ending you got when you beat the game, but I know there's like 4 different endings to Sekiro, and I was again,
there's one that you already understand where that's coming from, because that was earlier.
Right.
You had a choice.
Right.
And
But then there's other ones.
Yeah.
And like I was looking into them, like maybe like 2 days ago, and I've already missed the point that you can get those.
So you're not really
From Software, like it's just so obtuse, like what you need to do to get a certain thing, like very, very like. And the same thing with Bloodborne. There was no way, and I can probably spoil it. Right, it's been
Bloodborne.
a while, yeah.
Spoilers for Bloodborne. Wait 2 seconds.
1, 2. Like, how was I supposed to know that like eating 3 umbilical cords would get me the best ending?
Right.
So it wasn't until the second playthrough when I did New Game Plus and I did the Old Hunters DLC that like I looked into it. I was like, oh, that's it. That's all I got to do. You know, because the first time I did the same thing. I was like, I just want to play this. I want to have my own experience. And when I found out that there was a better ending than what I got, I was just like, oh, I gotta do that.
Can't you end the game after beating Mikolash? Like that's an ending.
I
think it is. I think you can. I think there's something I don't remember, but I think there's a way like that's an ending. Or maybe after you beat the wet nurse.
If you beat the wet nurse, you can go to Gehrman.
Yes,
and he can say like he goes
you
like
just give it. You say whatever it is.
He says like I'll kill you and you won't have to deal with this anymore.
That's what it was.
And he kills you and you wake up and you know
the wet nurse is right after Mikolash. That's why I was thinking about it, probably.
And then there's the ending where you just fight Gehrman.
Yeah.
And that's the first ending I got. You
and
just
then
fight Gehrman. You become like the next Gehrman in that ending.
Yep.
And then if you beat the umbilical cords, then you fight the moon presence.
Yeah.
And then you bring Yharnam to its new dawn, or whatever the trophy said, something like that. But yeah, so I know Sekiro. I've already missed the 4 whatever the endings are. And now, did you get those? Like, did you?
No. I probably am gonna get, or you're probably gonna get the same one as me.
Yeah.
But I kind of, after I beat the game, I looked up a bunch of stuff, and now I, like I said, there's one obvious one that you make a choice on.
Right.
And other than that, the other, it's really 3, really, because one of them is just a variation of the other one.
Okay. But like I said, I looked up what it was, and it was just so obtuse, and I was like, you have to do it at this point and not after this point, and you have to do this, you have to listen to this, and it's just like so many different things, and I was just like, oh, I missed that.
The funny thing is, the ending that I got is like, I guess it's not the best ending because I didn't go out of my way to get a bunch of stuff, but I love the way it ended.
It was good.
Like I thought it was really like appropriate for what happened. So
because like I watched where we talked about there was another point where you can get the ending where if you got to make a decision. So I watched the quote unquote bad ending, and I was like, oh man, I hate this.
That's
like
brutal,
that's like so bad
that's
the way
brutal.
that. So hopefully I beat the last boss.
I'm pretty sure you will, Dan. You got him down to his last death blow multiple times. That means you're on the road.
I shouldn't say this because this might be karma. It might be used against me, like where now the boss is going to become harder. But I don't think so. You're saying it's the hardest From Software boss. Hands down, hardest boss I ever fought was like Orphan of Kaz, because like he was just so unpredictable and so like you get him down to half health and he's just the worst. You can't. It's all just luck. I really don't think it has anything to do with skill. This boss though, I feel like I know it. I can do it. I can.
But that's this game compared to other games in From Software. It's like this game is learning more than any of the others. There's no like, in my opinion, I'm like when I finally beat this final boss, I had 5 gourd charges left when I beat him.
Oh yeah, because
you know what I'm saying?
Like you get better, yeah.
So it was the hardest for me because it's
such a big learning.
I have so much trouble in this game with delayed sword attacks. And Ishin does he like waits and he like shows his blade and then like goes and it kills me.
Yeah.
Kills me. That we're all right. But yeah, I'm telling you, any sort of like sword delays in this game, I have so much trouble with.
I have a hard time telling between when they do when the kanji symbol comes up,
if it's a sweep or a
like especially with him, because on his on one of the trying not to spoil anything. On one of the later phases, he does like a sweep and he does like a upwards, and you can Mikiri counter that. But like it's so hard to like tell what he's going. Like it's such a subtle that you really gotta be invested, and if you gotta invest like half an hour just to try to. Shelby,
anyone that's not watching Sekiro, Shelby dies twice. You should, because it's awesome.
It's really good.
But Shelby's biggest issue is differentiating the different things.
Yeah,
he can never still even after he beat Genichiro.
Yeah.
he like couldn't tell if a sweep was coming or if a thrust was coming. Like he really struggles. It's hard though. But he's great at the game. He's like way better than I am. My first.
Oh my gosh, I was watching. Gosh, he took like it took me like 50 times to beat Genichiro, and like he, you know, seriously, go Shelby.
He really is rocking that game. But
yeah, man, I love it. I'm hoping by the next time we have a podcast, I beat it.
Yeah.
Now that my time frees up a little bit.
And I'm really hopeful that if when Shelby beats it, we can all get together and just talk spoilers. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I know it'd be super late, but I think for people that enjoy this stuff and have beaten Sekiro, I think it would be a lot of fun.
There's so much I want to talk about and so many specific moments and characters.
I would love to do that.
That'd be really cool.
All right, let's move on to other games. Dan, I know that you finally got into something. I talked about this game on one podcast, then Shelby talked about it on the next podcast. Now it's your turn to talk about it.
Yeah.
What have you been playing? Dreams?
I got Dreams. Yeah.
What do you think?
It's incredible. It really is incredible.
What has your experience been like? What have you been doing in it?
So first day I got it, I wanted to play everybody's levels, and holy moly.
Were there any standouts you want to talk about?
Yeah, I want to say I think the most creative, most incredible one, because it's crazy. Some are just like movies, some are just like paintings, some are just and some of them, not so great. But again, I can't make anything better. But there's this one. It was called The Starry Night, and you're like in Vincent van Gogh's room. That's how you actually pronounce it. For you cultured people out there. But and you're in his room, and it looks just like one of his like paintings. Like he's had paintings of like the chair in his room or the bed in his room, and you're in his room, and like you go and you drink like absinthe, and then you get whisked away outside, and like the sky just turns into Starry Night. And to me, that was like one of the most.
I didn't play that one. That sounds really cool.
That was like one of the most unique, incredible ones I've ever played. A lot of people did like Kokiri Forest. There was like more than just one. There was like a few people who tried to do that one. That was really cool. I'm trying to think what else.
I read that someone's remaking the entirety of Metal Gear Solid 1 in Dreams.
Oh, really?
They're like working on it right now.
I'm trying to think. One that I saw on Polygon, and then I actually played it, was The House of Beavis. Did you see that one?
No, I didn't see
It's like this weird, like, mansion, but, like, all these, like, weird things, like, happens, these weird statues, and, like, a unicorn shows up, and it's like...
Did you play the PT remake?
Oh, yeah, man, that was terrifying.
Isn't that so cool?
But, so, maybe it was my game. It stops at one point. It only goes so far.
Yeah, it's not a complete remake.
It's not completed. At one point, like...
It's just like a proof of concept, kind of.
Yeah, oh my gosh,
isn't it so
it's
good?
Just like it. It's just like it.
The way they can make the graphics look...
Just like...
So similar. Like, it's not the same quality, obviously, but with the tools they have, like imagining somebody making the clock and the pictures and stuff, like it's just amazing.
But it does stop at a point, because it just turned to a black screen, and I was just like, oh, I can't go anymore. What's happening? But yeah, man, that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else they had. They had the Don't Hug Me game where
a lot of the Media Molecule made ones, which that was one, are really cool little bite-sized ones.
Yeah. But I've been going through some of the tutorials. I've been trying to, and nobody take my idea. But I've been trying to work on like a Back to the Future, like DeLorean, like. Because what they have is they have certain things at Media Molecule, like they already have like pre-made things. Yeah. So like they actually had the Back to the Future DeLorean like made. They had the like a clock tower made. They had like a truck. So I'm trying to make like the Twin Pines Mall, and then you go through Hill Valley.
That's awesome.
But it took me like an hour just to like get the platforms to connect. It's really janky that way.
It's tough, but you can see how much of the tutorial stuff have you done with the creator stuff?
I know they're segmented into like there's one, but there's like 8 parts to it. I've done the two beginner ones, and I know there's just so much more.
So did you see all the animation stuff?
Yeah, there's so much to. I mean, I didn't watch them, but I know that
it's just. So me just like watching some of that stuff and learning some of that stuff, like it. Obviously, a tutorial is going to help you do something, right? That's the whole point of it. But the way they talk about their tools really makes you understand it. I think jumping in and messing around with it is certainly useful, but it's easy to become frustrated if you don't fully understand it. So like. Best way to do it is like pull up the tutorials on a separate screen if you can.
Yeah, and then do it as you.
And then do it and like, all right, I'm confused about this. Let me check this tutorial, watch it, and then go. Like it's been really, really cool doing that.
Have you made anything? Have you
just mess it around? Yeah. I do. I spend more time in that game looking through other people's like character models and cars and vehicle, like looking through other people's creations, like because there's a place where you can look through just objects, right? So you're not like playing someone's level. You're just like, oh, I made this really cool tree.
Maybe someone else made a DeLorean because it came out really amazing.
It could be someone else, yeah, because other people are making crazy stuff in this game. There's just one very memorable one for me where it's just like big robot. It's like a big mech looking thing, and it shoots eye lasers if you press a button, and it makes like a really cool like diabolical laugh, like robot laugh. It's so good. That sort of stuff. Like looking at other, and I don't, maybe this is me being creatively bankrupt, but I don't like looking at someone else's thing and be like, oh, this would be really cool in this type of story or this type of world or something. Is it makes my personal abilities enhance? You know what I mean? Like where
I'm
like,
I need a jump start. I need something.
It's nice to be like, oh, here are some pre-made things I can add in, make stuff around it, maybe make the actual gameplay part of it. I think it's so neat.
Yeah. It's great though. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
that's really all I can say. Just a lot of fun.
I'm very excited to see when the final release comes out. What
Did
they
they
change.
mention anything about that?
I mean they're probably a little ways out. It took them so long to get to this point.
Yeah,
but maybe by the end of the year we'll see.
It'd be cool.
Yeah. So that's Dreams. I have a semi-apology about Katana Zero.
Oh, okay, let's hear it.
So I played 2 or 3 more chapters.
Okay. So what day are you at?
You know what the funny part is? Right after the podcast is when I played last time. So it's been like 2 weeks. Right. But I will say I did the thing with the DJ.
Okay.
And then I did one more after that.
Okay. So you're still in there.
And so I'm still, but what I want to say off the bat is the apology I owe it is there is more to it than I gave it credit for sure. Like playing those first 2, I was like, I don't know, it's not for me, whatever. It's not doing what it's trying to do very well. I think it is, and I think some of the meta narrative stuff that they're doing is very interesting, and it makes me want to continue. It just so happens that my final exam is coming up, so I haven't had as much time. But I will finish this game, and I like the direction it's heading. The problem I have with it is I don't think the writing is very good. Okay. Personally, I think some of the like I don't know. I kind of don't like the attitude of the game. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like how you can hit the red dialogue option
really quick.
It's like quickly. Like those are all like just like ugh. Yeah. Like it's not, you're not really being clever, you're just being kind of an asshole. Like it's not, I don't know. I haven't found that too enjoyable. So that's why it's a semi-apology. I think I didn't give it enough credit before on the last episode for what it was doing. Now I think I enjoy the game. I get what it's doing. It's varying things up enough where I'm enjoying it. I think some of the interactions with the psychologists is interesting, but the writing overall I found to be kind of a little off-putting for me.
That's fair. I'm curious if you continue playing through it. Like I said, it gives me very Metal Gear Solid 2 vibes.
Yeah, I will, and I'm going to finish it, and probably I would bet by the next episode I'll have this game finished. But I just wanted to talk briefly about Katana Zero.
Yeah,
just say,
definitely.
Maybe I didn't give it enough credit.
That's okay. I think it's definitely a game worth just checking out. I'm not saying it's the best game ever, but sure. I definitely I'm glad I invested in it. Yeah,
and I already have it, and I already started playing it, so may as well. I know you have a couple older games on the list of games you played here, Dan. What do you want to talk about?
Oh, I just me and my sister have just been going through like old games, certain games that she's never played. So we were talking before, Chrono Trigger. I think we talked about that game to death. We just kind of started playing through that again. If anybody hasn't played that game still holds up. It's still fantastic.
I wish there was a way. I mean, I appreciate the way Chrono Trigger opens as far as world building, but I wish there was a way when you replay it to just skip that first hour.
Yeah, you don't like the little fair.
It's not that I don't like it. It's just there's a lot of stuff you have to do that's just go
run with the dogs. Or
you know what I mean? But that's such a minor gripe for such an amazing game.
That game is incredible. So we played that. Oh, so Kingdom Hearts. I know Shelby. Shelby, I know you're here in spirit. We started playing Kingdom Hearts again, specifically 2. My sister's never played those games, and we still have them for, what was it, PlayStation 2. And so she just said, all right, she was in the middle of the first one, and she was like, I'm kind of not feeling it. So she was like, I'm just going to go to the second one. Yeah, we went through the second one, and I kind of watched, we played, we talked about it. I don't know. I kind of wanted to ask you, because I know how we feel about the Metal Gear Solid games. It seems like, because this is also going to tie into another game that we started to play, another Final Fantasy game, was they just came out with the trailer for the remake for Final Fantasy VII.
Yes.
So my sister's friend never played Final Fantasy VII, so we had it on the PS4. So we said, we'll show you what it's about. We'll play the beginning, stages and stuff like that. And I just feel like with Kingdom Hearts 2 and Final Fantasy VII, I feel like there's a very, very big difference when you're trying to tell a complex kind of meta angsty story. I feel like those two games, the Kingdom Hearts and the Final Fantasy VII, are just like so self-serious that it kind of takes the enjoyment out of it, as opposed to a Metal Gear Solid, which is just incredibly obtuse, but at the same time, like, it realizes what it's doing, and it's a little bit more enjoyable for that.
Mm-hmm.
Not to crap on these games, but just playing these games again, or at least just starting from the beginning and going through them again and revisiting them. It really just sort of deepens those feelings of just like, I don't really care for these games that much. Not to sound like an old man.
No, but I understand where you're coming from, and I mean, there's a obvious analog between Final Fantasy VII and the Kingdom Hearts games in that it's same creator, a lot of the same stuff.
Characters,
going on. Yeah, like there's a lot there. That makes it pretty obvious. But yeah, it that's what's always rubbed me the wrong way, is that not that the Final Fantasy games before 7 weren't serious, because they certainly had serious plot lines and stuff like that, but it was a different kind of serious. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like there's something, and I'm so bad at describing this because I've talked about this with so many other people about why 6 is so much better than 7, and it's like. It's just because the styles of them are so different. Like even how the characters are written and the dialogue between them, seems like a really good story compared to like it's like a really good novel versus like a young adult novel. That's how I feel about it, and I don't. That is dismissive and reductive and whatever, but. I've always felt that way, and I don't have a good way to describe it, but I'm like, this just is kind of bad. Yeah. Like I've always felt that way about 7 in particular, where I'm like, like a lot of this stuff is just very silly in a not fun way. You know what I mean? In like a eye rolly kind of way.
And that's what I mean. And it's I probably a lot of people would disagree with me and get angry at me for it, but like I just don't think Cloud is a very good character. I think he's just like he's just like a terrible character, and maybe I shouldn't spoil anything because I know the remake's coming out and people were. But there's a specific point in the game where you get to the bottom of like what's eating him, and it's just like the biggest letdown where you're just like, you did this to yourself, buddy. Like what the heck? Like this whole thing.
It's very young adult novel like where it's like there's one-dimensional characters that are like. Here's what this person means, really underneath it all, it's like there's a big secret to unravel. And whereas you have 6 where it's like actual character building, you have really fun interactions between the characters in the party. Like you're learning about their lives throughout the story on top of the overarching story, which is pretty. I mean, they have interesting twists in 6 that make that main story more meaningful. But if you look at that main story, it's like nothing to write home about. Right. But like I said, it's everything else around it. Yeah, recently, what's really interesting? I've been watching Giant Bomb play through Mass Effect series again, and I forever since the end of Mass Effect 3, I have said Mass Effect 1 is the best Mass Effect, right? And that's because I still would say for sure the overarching plot and what's going on and how they built the world and everything, the universe, how they built that out is so masterful, even if the gameplay stinks and, you know, it's not as character focused, right? I'm watching, now they're playing Mass Effect 2, and I don't think there's any way that I could say Mass Effect 1 is better than Mass Effect 2.
There's no way. So you completely changed your opinion?
Completely.
Wow.
And it's because I had not revisited that trilogy since I completed the trilogy. And it's, so there's a complicated thing here, right? So it's number one, rose-tinted glasses for the first of a series.
Right, it's the first.
You're like, this was amazing. And I still absolutely adore the first Mass Effect game. But every little detail in Mass Effect, Mass Effect 2 has detail everywhere. Every planet you go to, you hear ambient conversations that are sometimes hilarious, sometimes like heartbreaking, like but they fill that place in a way that makes Mass Effect 1 feel so empty. So
That's
empty.
really interesting. I haven't played them since.
But I never thought about it because, like, of course I played Mass Effect 2 when it came out. I said, this is a masterpiece. I love this game. But when you're looking at them so close together, and you came out of the trilogy, you played the trilogy late, and you came out and you said Mass Effect 2 is
my favorite.
Your favorite.
Yeah.
And I would always say, you know, 1 is really the one. You know, look at all the stuff, like, because it lays such an impressive groundwork. It's so easy to look back and say, like, wow, look at how awesome this story is, like with the Protheans and the, like, you know, these ancient machine race that, like, it was so wild and so interesting. And of course, I mean, Mass Effect in and of itself borrows a lot from other science fiction, so I'm not saying this is like, you know, they're coming up with all, and so, you know, it's a whole complicated mess. But I recently was looking at and watching these videos and saying, like, holy shit, like, look at how awesome this world is, full of hundreds of characters,
and races and cultures,
but, like,
and all this stuff.
Mass Effect 1 doesn't have that. It doesn't have, you know, a bartender that's going to be like, you know, flirting with you, but also like wanting to punch you in the face. Like there are thousands of little interactions in Mass Effect 2 that pepper that world and make it like such a, I keep saying world, and I laugh at it because we say world building, right? But it's a bunch of worlds, obviously. It's a universe in Mass Effect. So, but it peppers that whole entire universe with such a amazing level of detail, and it just it does such a good job of floating between being serious and funny and serious and funny and ridiculous and absurd, and like there are so many different things going on and they all fit together. And I think that's such an amazing accomplishment, and that's why I know this was such a roundabout way to talk about this, but it clicked in my head when I was thinking of 6 and 7, where it's like in 7 they're really one note, and when they have levity, it doesn't feel in concert with the rest of the game because you're so beaten down with how this world is. Whereas I look at 6 and it all fits, you know, like you're kind of like you're playing with these characters and you're like, wow, like, yeah, we did have this terrible battle and something terrible happened to this person, but like we find moments of joy and like little things happen.
It's a bigger scope of just like emotions.
And it, exactly. It runs the gamut, but it fits together. And that's the important part. It's like, if you're going to try to do multiple, you know, I've given The Last of Us some shit in the past about being kind of one note, right? And it's like, they do have small moments of like, you know, someone getting to live in normalcy or whatever. You know, I'm not going to talk about the specifics in Last of Us, but it's like, but they don't really do a good job of like exploring the emotional scale, right? And it's like, I think some of the best stories do that, and I think that's what Final Fantasy VII is really missing. It's like trying to hammer home this one thing, and it's not something I was ever interested to begin with. Like that one thing they're trying to tell you. So it's like,
my parents just don't understand.
You know, it's just like, you know, it never worked for me. And sorry to go off on a tangent about Mass Effect, but it's on my mind.
Fantastic, and
it's on my mind right now because of that Giant Bomb series. But
I agree, and that's why 2 was always my favorite, because I just feel like there was so much more.
Yeah, it really makes the.
But I love 1 too. It's like the Godfather and Godfather Part 2. You can't have one without the other. It's like.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think I gave 1 so much credit in the past because I'm like, this laid the groundwork. Like this set up everything. Mm-hmm. But the level of quality and the depth of characterization and worlds in that game is so unmatched.
Yeah.
And I'm interested when they get to 3 because I loved 3 when it came out. I thought it was great. It was like more of 2.
Yeah.
That's what it was like for me. It didn't quite have the same characters that I loved in the same way. That's why I think it fell lower. And of course, everyone's dissatisfied with the ending. I don't really have too much. It was just kind of it was kind of like I was kind of apathetic towards it. It's not like I hated it, but I didn't love it.
Yeah, same.
So,
and sometimes I think as humans, that's probably like being neutral. We just don't like that because it's just like a very.
Yeah, that's true. But it's also anything that ends.
Yeah, we're going to be upset anyway. Yeah.
This year in particular, we're talking about a lot of that because you're looking at Game of Thrones and Avengers and, all that stuff is coming to an end. And it's like everybody's like, well, yeah, it's hard to please people when you're ending a thing that they love because
there is
people work up.
Ernest Hemingway, there's no happy ending.
There's no happy ending, but it's also people make up in their heads how things are supposed to go.
Right.
And when it doesn't go to their plan, it's easy to be frustrated. Yeah. That's why I'm always that person that's like, I have no expectation. I just want to go in and see what happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, that's enough of that. So Final Fantasy VII, Kingdom Hearts 2, Chrono Trigger. You also playing Fez, I heard.
Oh, I love Fez. That's one of my all-time favorite games. But
did you just like dip in and show it off a little bit, or did you?
That was completely it. Yeah. My sister's never played it, so and she's known that I've loved it. We have it on the PlayStation. I love the crap out of that game, and I was like, oh, you should give it a try, and she's loving it too. She loves, it's just such an interesting. I love 2D side-scrolling platformers, and it's just such an incredible take on that. And it's even cooler like giving that off to someone else that isn't so familiar with it and just like watching them like figure out the puzzles and things like that. And I just love it, man. It's just such a joyful game. And it's so interesting, all the areas, and I don't know, I can't say enough about it. It's one of my favorite games ever.
It is an amazing game.
Yeah.
That's not a game that gets overlooked because a lot of people talk about it with some reverence, but I think compared to some of those other, I don't want to say early indie games because that wasn't that long ago, but like that window of indie games when it wasn't thousands of them every year, I feel like Fez does get passed over a little bit. I think now people talk about Spelunky, Super Meat Boy, like very specific Braid, very specific games, and I feel like sometimes Fez kind of gets short shrift.
That's how I feel too. I feel like Fez was the indie of the indies, Limbo, everybody, I love Limbo, I love Braid, I love all those games. But yeah, like you said, those games get the,
Yeah, like especially now looking back, people, I feel like Fez kind of gets pushed to the side a little bit.
Well, even like Cave Story, that's such a great game. And I know that was like one of the first established indie games. Yeah. And now that we're so far along, and like you said, we have thousands of indie games a year, like that game also gets...
Yeah, it does for
really
sure.
Talk about it that much.
That's an interesting one though because it came the way Cave Story was developed is very strange because it's like it was released really early on. I think it was on Game Boy Advance or something, wasn't it? It was released on one of the.
I remember. Was that 2005?
It was, but it was released then, and not a lot of people played it. And then it came out on Wii Virtual Console years later, and that's when everyone kind of played it. But it really came out like really early for an indie game. You know what I mean? Like, I know the word indie game is so silly in the way that we use it, but it's a good way to describe a small scope game when there weren't a lot of those. Yeah. Nowadays, you can't really say that because now it's you look at a game like Transistor or Pyre or something, and it's like, I guess that's an indie game, but it's like huge. Look at how beautiful they are and how much work went into them and stuff. It's not like, but all right, so that's Fez.
Yeah, man.
One more game that I've been playing that just came out that I'm excited to talk to you about. It's called A Plague Tale: Innocence, which, first of all-time bad name. It's like a terrible name.
It sounds so familiar, though.
It's a really, really interesting game.
PlayStation? Maybe that's why.
So it's on PS4, Xbox, and PC.
Maybe that's why I saw it or something.
I think it's $40. And it's so interesting because we don't get a lot of this type of game anymore, where it's like a AAA style game made from a independent studio. Like, this is kind of like a big indie game, but it's a third person, looks like Last of Us kind of thing. And the basic gist of the story is, I'm going to spoil the first 30 minutes of the game. It's not, something bad's going to happen, I assume, but it's called a Plague Tale. So it can't be too good. But you play as this teenage girl who is the daughter of a like really respected knight who has. So I'm not very familiar with how class structure works in this time in the medieval days, but basically her father is a knight who did really well in battles, like was a leader, whatever, and now he kind of has his own like mini kingdom sort of thing, right? So he has like a castle with a bunch of houses that he oversees. Like, he's basically like a lord of this manor or whatever, right? And it starts off with like you in the woods with your dad. Like, he's like taking you on a hike or something. They're just like chatting, he's like, oh, let's see how that sling of yours works. And you have this like mechanic where you have a sling that you put rocks in, you spin it and launch it at different stuff. So you're like training on apples on a tree. It's like very whatever. So your dog's running with you, you're like hanging out, the three of you, it's nice. And then something bad happens, and you are thrust into a situation where it's just you and your little brother, and you don't really know your little brother because he was kept inside his whole life.
Okay. Wow.
And like nobody could visit him. It was just your mom taking care of him. You don't even really know what the hell's wrong with him or what's going on or anything, but it's you and your little brother. Your mom and dad are like, get the hell out of here. You got to go, whatever happens. I'm not going to talk specifics about it. So the journey starts, you and your little brother. Now the mechanic is, and this is going to sound bad, but it's one big escort mission. And it's not bad though, because what happens is down on the D-pad is kind of your way of giving actions to the little brother. Mm-hmm. So it's like follow, and he'll just hold your hand and you walk with him. You can tell him to stay in one spot. You can go somewhere and then tell him to come when the coast is clear or whatever. Or you can have him do certain things, right? So the way the game plays is, like I said, it's a third person, close camera. Really reminds me of The Last of Us in a lot of ways. And it's kind of just a story of like you guys trying to, like your house is in shambles. You don't have anyone left that you're trying to like just get to safety, find people that can help you. The thing that makes this a really great game, in my opinion, is just the characters. Your little brother, characters you meet along the way. Like, it's just really, really good and really surprising at how the story's developing and how the characters are interacting. Like, it really is like a heartfelt kind of game where the characters are believable. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of all that matters in a game like this, is like, do you feel for the character when they're in trouble, or if they're upset, or if they're, you know what I mean? Like, kind of like Kratos and Atreus.
Right.
It's like, I almost said Atreyu. Kratos and Atreus.
From Neverending Story.
Yeah. How their interaction was kind of the crux of the game. That's kind of what you're going through here, and it's just really, really well done. What I will say is,
I feel like I really like this.
Yeah, I think you would. Yeah, I really think you would. And it's cool. It's cool to see a really pretty, like, polished game for $40 mm-hmm. because they don't need it to be 60 or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a. It's interesting. In the past few years, we've seen that variety of scale in as far as pricing. Where for a long time it was indie games 15, big game 60.
Right. Yeah.
Now people are really understanding. Okay, here's what I think our game should be, or whatever. The thing I'll say about this game is it's very easy, which isn't a bad thing in my opinion. The only thing I would the only negative I have towards it is that basically all the mechanics in the game are kind of like ancillary. Like, I don't know if they really needed a lot of this stuff. Like I said, the sling is your main mechanic, and then you're doing a lot of sneaking. It's a lot of stealthing around soldiers and stuff. You're not really, there's no like, head-to-head combat or anything. But they built in a crafting system. Okay. Which it makes sense when you start to get some later abilities and stuff. I think I'm about 4 hours into this game. I'm assuming it's pretty short, maybe 6 or 8, something like that. But as you get in, like, you're literally picking up like alcohol, leather, string, like stuff like that, and you whenever you get a crafting tool, you can go to a bench somewhere in the world and upgrade one of your things. It's not really necessary. Okay. I see why they did it, because again, it's very easy. There isn't much to it. Mm-hmm. There's the main part is like sneaking around and then puzzle solving. Okay. So it's like, you turn this wheel, have your brother run across, he turns the other wheel, you can now run across, that sort of stuff, where it's like, it's very easy. You don't have to think too much, but like I said, it's just a vector for the story. But I almost wish that they did it like a Life is Strange kind of thing, where there really is no gameplay. It's just like, walk through, have a story.
Make a choice, yeah.
But I guess the problem, it is interesting to think about, because I'm not here to second guess someone else's decision on why they made their game a certain way. But the thing about Life is Strange is there are a lot of characters and environmental things to look at. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of your gameplay, is like, you can walk over to the picture on the table and click on it, and your character will pick it up and comment on it or something. Mm-hmm. So without that, I wonder if just walking and doing these, if it would be tedious or something. So maybe, there's something to, I'm not saying a game shouldn't have any gameplay, but I really like the story and the character interactions in a way that, like, I kind of wish I didn't have to deal with the rest of it.
That's fair.
It's interesting. The other thing I'll say is it, and I don't want this to turn you off, but the things I like about Vampire, the things I like about it are similarly things I like here. When the characters are good and the writing is good, it has a similar feel of quality.
Oh, I'm down for the writing and the nuances and things like that.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's what this game is playing in, that space. Mm-hmm. It kind of reminded me of it. Obviously, it doesn't have all the systems and all that stuff, but it is a very like dark, gothic-y kind of style, and I think like I said, the characters you care about.
I think I want to get this.
Yeah, it's great. It's called A Plague Tale: Innocence. Like I said, I'm maybe about halfway through.
I think
I'm excited to continue. It's a really, really interesting game, and it's playing in a space that we don't see a lot. Mm-hmm. Like it's like a mini version of a big AAA game.
That's awesome,
and it's cool.
That's really cool.
I'm happy that people are trying stuff like this.
Yeah, I think I might pick that up.
Yeah, I would recommend it for sure.
If I beat Sekiro,
you will. You're gonna take next time you play. You're gonna beat him within an hour. Guaranteed.
Did you ever beat Vampire?
No.
Okay.
No, I never did. I think that game has pacing issues at the end for sure. Like in the back half, it's like hard to keep going. Yeah. I was so taken with that game in the first 10 hours. I loved it, but I still think of that game very highly. I just don't. It's an interesting study in like, how long should we play a game before making up our mind about it? You know what I mean?
Right, before we put it away.
You were not enjoying it almost from the get-go.
From probably the first.
So for me, first like 15 hours, I was like in love with it.
Really? Okay.
But at the back half,
yeah,
things started to fall apart a little bit, and I was like, oh, I don't know.
I mean, I played that game probably into like 20 hours. I
But you knew, you could tell what I'm talking about with the back half being messy.
Oh yeah, but honestly, I thought.
Yeah,
I was very not upset. It's fine. It's a video game, but like, I was a little bit disappointed from the beginning.
Yeah,
but
well,
it's okay.
Yeah,
opinions, they're like buttholes. Everyone's got one, and they all stink.
Jesus. All right. So anyway, A Plague Tale: Innocence, I believe is $40. I think it's well worth the $40. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
Cool, man.
But again, it is short, so make your own decision on what you want to do.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's all the games that we've been playing. I want to get into. I had this thought the other day. Rage 2 came out to very middling reviews, and so I'm not going to get into the woods on this specific topic, but I want to briefly just say I want to keep saying it so that people keep thinking it. Our review system is busted.
Yes.
And it's bad. I just don't like the fact that a game like Rage 2, if a critic will write a review that sounds mostly negative, and it'll be a 6.5 or a 7.
Yeah.
And I just don't fucking get it. And I don't like it. And I think that it is really... I think the main issue is, hey, this game is polished. It clearly they have money, so the minimum it can get is a 6 or 7.
We're scared to give it a 4, or we're scared to give it.
It doesn't make any sense. It drives me nuts. Because it allows people to talk about AAA games with no budget that maybe have something interesting to say, are in a 6 as well, because they're like,
and you're comparing the two, and you're giving them the
awful.
Same.
I hate it. I need us to get off the fact that when a game is polished and has money, that it automatically needs a certain rating. I hate it.
What wasn't the whole time? I remember, didn't Prey, some reviewer gave it like a 4, but then I forget what game they gave like an 8 to, but like the reviews were like very much like the same sort of thing. And because Prey was like, it wasn't from one of these big developers. That was, I don't know how long ago that was. That was like maybe 2 years ago.
No, I remember that Prey was very, some people liked it, some people didn't.
But I just remember there was a whole thing that like the article was very much similar to like another game, but the other game had a higher had a higher score.
I that's not even what I want to talk about here, but I just wanted to bring it up because again, just like when Days Gone came out, all these reviews sound negative and they are all getting 7s.
7.5, 8, it's good. But everything else is terrible.
Yeah, but what is good about it? You know what I mean? Like, that's the question that we have to ask. And I'm not saying nobody can enjoy these games. I know there are people out there enjoying Rage 2 quite a bit, enjoying Days Gone quite a bit. I'm not saying these games are without merit. But when you're reading a review that sounds mostly negative, why are we giving it such a high score?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense.
Because they're AAA? Like we talked about Anthem.
It is. No, it 100% is.
Crackdown.
It's like there's money in this game. Look at how polished. Look at how the graphics are. Everything runs really well. Like... we're relying too much on that stuff because guess what? A game that's janky as hell, that has bugs and has a really good story to tell or really good systems or something, that game's a lot better than these shitty games that look nice.
Right.
Like, I don't know what the hell. It drives me nuts. And again, I'm sorry. That's kind of a tangent because what I really wanted to talk about is I had a question in my brain. Is 2019 the year of disappointing AAA games? Because I think so far we're halfway through it.
What do we got?
We got Anthem. We got Far Cry New Dawn. We got Metro Exodus. We got Crackdown 3. We got Days Gone. And we got Rage 2. Oof. That's a lot of AAA games, and all of them are like disappointments.
Yeah.
To one extent or another. And it's just so interesting to see because normally you have a year where like 1 or 2 of these come out. And right now we're 5 months in and I have six, 7 games on here. It's like, it's kind of weird, isn't it? And I don't know if it's like a product of being at the end of this console's life cycle or if it's just, hey, if you look at a lot of these games, most of them were pushed back. You're looking at Rage 2 pushed back, Anthem pushed back, Crackdown 3 pushed way back. Days Gone was supposed to be last year, then was supposed to be February. Now it's April. Like, so I don't know if we're just if it's just coincidental, or if we're just looking at it and being like, they're kind of everyone's trying to get their trash out of the way for their better games because Bethesda, who put out Rage 2, has Wolfenstein. What is it, Youngblood?
Yeah,
is it
Youngblood. Is that July, I think?
Yeah, and Doom Eternal, which are both probably going to be very good. Sony has Last of Us 2 and Death Stranding, and so then maybe they said, hey, let's get Days Gone out of the way, you know. So I don't know if that's what's happening or if I'm just like, basically prognosticating here.
Yeah,
you know,
I don't know, because I'm telling you, with Days Gone, they really pushed for that one though. They really advertised the crap out of that one as like it was going to be the.
Yeah, but here's the thing about Days Gone. And I don't want to beat a dead horse. We talked about Days Gone last week, but the reason they did that is because they know that type of game will sell, and it sold gangbusters. So there's no, like, I understand why they do that as a business. Yeah. But if you're an educated consumer, you can look at that game and look at Last of Us 2 and figure out which one you want to play. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to play both, play both. But if you're saying I can only play one of these, you're not getting Days Gone unless you're having the wool pulled over your eyes. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, I mean, Far Cry New Dawn, it's a little unfair to include on this list because Far Cry 5 was disappointing to begin with, and this is just continuing off of that. So, yeah.
I didn't hear anything about Far Cry New Dawn. I mean, I knew when it came out, but
yeah, I know.
It just sort of
because nobody
happened.
Yeah. Metro Exodus, I know a lot of people liked. I know some people were like me and were very disappointed. Mm-hmm. So that's why that's on the list. Again, that kind of doesn't fully fit with what I'm talking about here. But yeah, the real crux of them are, Rage 2, Anthem, Days Gone.
Right.
Like these are big games that were highly anticipated for people, and they keep coming out, and people keep saying they're
no good,
not great. So yeah, the funny part is you look at the rest of this year. There's going to be great games. It's not that like this is an omen for the rest of the year.
Ever.
It's just it's interesting to see so many of them in such a short period of time, right near each other, you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, even there's so many smaller games this year that I'm super excited for, even like coming out soon. Observer comes out on Monday or Tuesday. You got to check out this game. Everyone, actually, you guys out there, look up this game, Void Bastards. If you've never heard of this game, just look up a trailer for it.
Never heard of this game.
It looks so interesting. And that game comes out in, a week and a half. So
cool.
I'm really, really excited for that. But, that's why I just want to throw a couple of those in there that are coming out real soon, because it's not like this year sucks. I mean, we played so many games that are great already. I look at games that I played and I'm like, oh, that was really good. Mm-hmm. That was really good. But when I'm looking at big AAA games, what do we have? Sekiro was amazing.
You said Devil May Cry was really good.
Devil May Cry 5 is great. What else?
Mortal Kombat?
If you want to include Mortal Kombat in this list, even though it's not, the rest of these are like first or third person, like action games, like full games. Mortal Kombat's a fighting game. But it's like, so our ratio of good AAA games to bad ones is rough.
Not good.
For this year. But yeah, just wanted to talk about that briefly. Now I want to talk about State of Play, which happened on May 9th, I believe. This is kind of Sony's take on Nintendo Directs, right? This is the second one they've had. This one is something I want to talk about because I'll basically go through what they talked about. We're really here for one thing, but they revealed Predator Hunting Grounds, which is a game by Ilphonic, which is the guys that made the Friday the 13th game.
Okay. Oh, so is it like Predator? Like,
yes.
Let's go do the job.
Yes.
Like that?
Yes.
Predator?
And, wow, that was something. That almost sounded like you're speaking a different language. But
it was Shelby. Shelby, what the hell, dude? Come on, stop with that. I'm sick of your shit.
But I think I talked about it on this podcast. I played Friday the 13th game, and it has so many great ideas. Mm-hmm. It's just janky as hell. And like too janky. But it has really good ideas. And so if we're talking about Predator, same type of game.
Like that.
One person's a predator, the rest are, commandos or whatever. And Sony's going to help them.
That'd be pretty cool.
That sounds pretty cool. I'm pretty excited about that. Because I'm telling you, they have really good ideas in that Friday the 13th game. Mm-hmm. They just couldn't really pull it all together. They showed the Medieval remake, which, Sir Dan, even though we share a name, I'm not that into you. That's coming out October 2015th.
25th.
God, I'm tired. They looked at a couple other little games. River Bond is like a really voxely looking shooter. They showed Monster Hunter World Iceborne. They showed a like nature looking game where you like play as a flying squirrel.
Oh, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's like a tight third person camera on a flying squirrel, and you're like exploring nature.
I love that.
Yeah, it's interesting. But the big one, the reason we're even talking about this, to be honest, is Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yes, which is
first time they're showing it. It really looks like they're doing exactly what we expected them to do, which some people are going to like and some people aren't. They're co-opting a 13 or 15 style action-y combat, and basically telling the exact story with better graphics. That's sure what it looks like to me. Fully voice acted. CG looks as expected. Looks very nice. Final Fantasy VII fans rejoice. It's coming. Who knows when, but it's at the very least coming. They said they're going to talk more about it at E3.
Yeah, it's been in the works.
Since Sony's not going to be there, Square Enix is actually taking their slot, so they're going to have a big press conference. So I'm sure they'll show a lot more of this game. So just wanted to bring that up. I mean, there's not too much to talk about here. You know, me and Dan are not the biggest fans. So just wanted to bring it up. I thought it was interesting.
For sure.
Lastly on the docket, what I have is Nintendo had a direct all about Super Mario Maker 2. And I know you didn't watch it, Dan, but it is some really exciting stuff.
Yeah.
So right off the bat, what I'll say is, they're doing the 3D World style, right?
Yes, but they had that for... Oh, no, they
had new Super Mario.
Super Mario Bros.
So
gotcha.
basically, the exciting part is they added a new tab in their world creation thing. So you have Super Mario Bros., Super Mario Brothers 3, Super Mario World, and New Super Mario Brothers. Those are the four. They all play the same. They all have the same gravity. They all have the same everything. You can basically make your level and then choose.
Yeah.
They're totally the same. Then there's a new tab that says like other styles or something. I forget the exact thing that it says. But 3D World is in there. And there's a blank space next to it. So we may be getting the Super Mario Brothers 2.
Oh my gosh.
That everyone's hoping for.
I love that so much.
It's cool enough that 3D World is in there. Yeah. But the thought of like different... Because there are a couple... It's very interesting because I'm very curious what they're going to do. But the setting the precedent that not all of the styles have to play the same.
Well, yeah, Mario Brothers 2 is
that opens the door for 2. Yeah, that opens it wide open, you know. So it's very exciting. I have a list of things here I'm reading from. It's actually a CNET article titled Super Mario Maker 2, Everything Announced During Nintendo Direct. They just have a pretty good list of stuff here. So I'm going to go through new tools, creating diagonal slopes.
Cool.
Wasn't in the last one. You know, it's a huge part of Super Mario World, especially the slopes. Angry Sun, everyone's
That's
favorite.
Awesome from Mario Brothers 3.
He's in there.
That's really cool.
They're allowing you to draw snake blocks.
Oh, cool.
And you can basically path it out for how it's going to go, which I think is a really neat idea. They added the on-off switches for the blue and red blocks. So some really interesting like puzzles that are going to like, this is what I'm saying. Mario Maker is an incredible game, like incredible. I love that game, but it didn't have everything in it. And seeing all the stuff they're adding, you're thinking of these possibilities, and you're like, holy shit.
I just can't wait to play other people's levels. That's my first thing. I'm not as creative as everybody else, so I'd rather just go play everybody's, you know.
I mean, yeah, that's... It's amazing. You're getting all these Mario levels.
Oh, new Mario game.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, so good. They also added the water. So they had underwater levels in the other one, but they didn't have different levels of water. So like think about Super Mario World with there's like water on the bottom
that you can,
and you can like, you know, you jump, but if you miss, you're in the water. Like you can do that, and you can basically adjust the height of the water level.
Cool.
So, you know, other stuff. Vertical sub areas, so you're creating sub areas that scroll up like in other, think about the plant that comes out of the block that you can climb up.
Yeah.
The ability to control how fast the scroll is, so you can make like a real ship, airship type level where the scrolling is very slow. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Where it's like, and the actual, you have control over where the scroll goes. So just like the ship level is what I'm talking about, where the camera goes up a little bit and then down. You're in control of that. Yeah,
that's really cool.
Bonsai Bill's in it. Dry Bones shell.
Cool.
Which is it's actually a Dry Bones, like, they're adding a little bit that was never in anything. Because correct me if I'm wrong, this is a Dry Bone shell. So you hit a Dry Bones.
Yeah, usually they just
go down and then they come back up, right? In this, they leave a shell that you can sit in and jump, and it's impervious to lava. So you can, like...
Oh, that's awesome.
You can, like, use it as a little boat. I don't think that was
a game.
Yeah.
No.
They're adding big coins, 10, 30s, and 50s, just to, like, incentivize weird platforming. Music from Koji Kondo. New music specific to this game, because there's a story mode.
Oh, yeah. That's amazing.
So
Koji Kondo's a guy. He did the Mario games and the Zelda games. Holy moly!
I know. So I'm gonna touch on the story mode, but I'm just gonna finish up these little tool things, like the list of stuff before I get into story mode. So there are specific clear conditions you can make for a level. So it could be like kill all the Koopa Troopas, and then you can finish the level.
Cool.
Or it could be like get 100 coins before you finish the level. 8 red coins you could do.
Oh, awesome.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So really interesting stuff. They added twisters and icicles.
Cool.
Parachutes
cool.
You can put on, like the Goombas parachuting down and stuff like that. Boom Boom, the mini boss that from he's like one of the mini bosses.
Right, he's in Super Mario World.
World,
yeah, he's got like a big red nose and that point on his head.
Yep. New themes. You can do a desert level, snow level, forest, and a sky.
Oh, awesome.
And they added the moon, which is basically, I think this is new as well. There's basically a so different things happen when it's nighttime. They talked about. So basically, what it is it makes a night course, which completely changes the way that level's played. Right. I'm just gonna read a little bit from here because they probably So the moon follows the path of the enemy angry sun, and if you touch it, so it's just like an angry sun, but it's a little smiling moon. If you touch it, it kills all the enemies on screen. So you want to touch it instead of running away from it.
I'm trying to think if that was ever in a game.
I don't think so. Most interesting aspect, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so in the sky, this is what I'm remembering now that I'm reading. So in each of those 4, so like, I said there was desert, snow, sky, forest. Mm-hmm. In each of those, the night, like making a night level, like the moon, adding the moon, changes how the levels interact. So in the sky themed level, night mode means low gravity.
Okay.
Snow themed becomes extra slippery. Forest theme become filled with poison water on the bottom. And it also changes the way some items work. So, really, really cool stuff. And now the most exciting part for me is the story mode. And the story mode is over 100 new courses. And you're basically... So Nintendo made courses.
That's awesome.
And you're kind of... The whole idea is Peach's castle is destroyed. You're rebuilding it. And so you're like doing certain things, and in different levels, you're getting like mini side quests where it's like, collect these things while you're in this level to help build Peach's castle back up. So it just looks really, really neat as like there's almost a little overworld where you saw like a toad in like a shop.
Uh-huh.
You see the Undo dog from Mario Paint, the little dog.
That's awesome, yeah.
He's like a character that like, you can talk to and get little quests from and stuff. It's just really interesting idea to throw a story mode into this, because it really seems like they want this game to be like a fully fledged awesome game. You know what I mean? Like they're adding a ton of stuff on top of all of this. It's
that's
so exciting.
Awesome. And that's June, right?
That's coming up real quick. Yeah, that's end of June, I believe. So yeah, that was the Super Mario Maker 2 Nintendo Direct.
That's exciting.
I'm really, really excited for that.
Cool, me too.
Yeah. And I think that's going to do it for the podcast, Dan.
All right.
Anything you want to add before we go?
No, it's just missed you, Shelby. I hope you're doing well.
Yep.
And yeah, that's
all right.
That's it.
Well, thank you, Dan, for being here.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
And thank you guys so much for listening. And we will catch you guys on the next episode of the Circle Back Podcast.
Have a good one.
Until then.
Yeah. So long, Z Bowser.
Peace. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching and or listening. Just here to remind you that you can find us by searching for Circle Back Podcast or Circle Back Gaming on any of these podcast services: Anchor, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, or Stitcher. By God, I'm out of breath because of all these podcast services, but you can find us anywhere there. Also, you can find our video version on YouTube by searching Circle Back Podcast or Circle Back Gaming, and the rest of the videos we do. Thanks, guys.